have cheated my entire professional career. For 17 years, universities think they have been paying me to develop student programs, run all of these reports to make data-informed decisions. But I don't care about any of that. I drudge through all of that work so that I can spend time with these confused little humans that we call our students. Let me tell you, no group of people are more mysteriously amazing than the group of know-it-alls that are both confident and scared at the exact same time. I literally collect a salary to clear their heads, fill them up with this philosophical jargon, and send them off into the world to search and destroy. I love my job. At every level of my career, starting as a student in the Office of Student Activities to becoming president of some grand university one day, my secret to success has been to deprogram the environmental and social conditioning of the minds of our students and open them up to their own interests, desires, and curiosities. This was me in 2003 as a PAL, Panther Advisor Leader. Our role was to ensure that every newly enrolled student knew that they made the right choice to attend this university before their first day of class. To break through their hard, cool kid outer shell, we had to employ my secret 3-step process. Encroach, inspire, employ. Encroach. P for Prairie, VIEW. Me and 100 other pals screaming the school songs and chants at the top of our lungs from the moment you woke up until you learned all 64 dance moves of the school dance we call the PV Shuffle. By the time we were done with you, you were tired, crazed out of your mind, and yet begging for more. We got all up in your space and we got comfortable, only so that you could get comfortable in this new place, this university, your new home. Inspire. P for Prairie, VIEW. You, yeah, you belong here. It was imperative for me to ensure that every student knew that they belonged here. You belong here, in this place. This is that place for you to explore all of you. Use those classrooms and use these student organizations, and those grilled cheese sandwiches from the CAF gave me an extra 45 pounds for me to get to know while I was here in this place. This is that place. This is the place where you begin the rest of your life. Ever since the first grade, they were always asking us, what do you want to be when you grow up? And to this day, I still don't know the answer to that question. I take the line in my job description, other duties as assigned, very serious. And I assign myself the duty of releasing our students from their fears of expectations and exposing them to new fields of exploration while they're at this place. Employ. P for Prairie, V. How do you do you? This is probably one of the most important questions that we ask our students because it affirms that they have a unique contribution and it's needed. It confirms that all the energy that we put into inspiring our students helps them to see themselves. We employ them so that they can learn themselves. College days are some of the best days that we all get to experience because we get to discover who we are. Our duties as professionals to ensure that we put those discoveries to great use. Mr. Orok, you helped me realize that I really love dance and dancing brings me so much joy. Oh, really? Did you know that we had over 10 dance organizations and one dance company here on the campus that you can join today? Mr. Orok, I'm an engineering major and I want to join an organization, but y'all don't have anything for engineering majors. Oh, really? Did you know I'm looking for 10 students to serve as my production and design team for a campus activities board? Do you know anyone who would be interested? Mr. Orok, I'm learning so much about operational theories and organizational theories in higher education. I didn't know I loved this until now. Oh, really? How would you like to work in my office and develop student programs and run these reports so that we can make data-informed decisions? Encroach, inspire, employ. What happens at my day job with these students is nothing other than decluttering of the heart space, making room in their heads and their minds to fully experience themselves as they exist in the world. Who knew that the crux of my work as a professional would be considered some of the most important work that every human has to do? I call it heart work. Heart work begins with acceptance. I could say that only college students struggle with this concept of acceptance. However, I know that acceptance is really hard for some of us to digest, whether we're young or old. Traumas and dramas and triggers, oh my. All of us have experienced things that have led us to ask the question, why? Why didn't I get that job? Or why do they treat me this way? Or why don't I have enough? Or why am I not enough? Some of the sources of major conflict in our lives comes from the fact that we desire from other people. We desire to be acknowledged. We desire to be accepted. We desire to be admired. We want to impose our will on other people. If other people just did what we asked them to do, then the world would be a perfect place. But no, I want to release you from that train of thinking. This session begins with heart work, and we'll start with your definition of love. M. Scott Peck, the author of the book, The Road Less Traveled, has a definition of love that I subscribe to, in which not only frames how we accept ourselves and how we accept other people, but also how we should exist in relationships. We'll use this definition to better understand acceptance. Let's call this segment Acceptance from Love. M. Scott Peck defines love as the will to extend oneself for one's own or another's spiritual growth. We'll have to break this down piece by piece to understand how it connects to acceptance. The will to extend oneself. This simply means that you choose to employ your own authority over yourself to stretch past all that you are. You are the author of your actions. You are the author of your experiences. You shape how your experiences register in your mind. The will to extend oneself for one's own or another's spiritual growth. Your spiritual growth, that's who you will become. Another's spiritual growth, that's who they will become. I take spiritual growth to mean the act of striving towards the idea or image of your greatest self. Let me say that again. Spiritual growth is the act of striving towards the idea or image of your greatest self. This quotient of spiritual growth goes past the limitations of your current conditions, past the limitations of your former environments, and dare I say, past the illusions of reality in your mind. This definition of love implies that you, as an individual, and everyone else in their own individuality, has an idea of who they wish to become. Let's be clear. To fully understand this concept of acceptance, you have to know this to be true. You can't control what someone is or who they will become. No matter how we rationalize it, every individual is striving to meet their own needs and become their idea of their greatest self. By this definition of love, the will to extend oneself for one's own or another's spiritual growth, you can only offer your support for another person that's striving to be their greatest self. You can't impose your desires on their life because that is not in your control. Does that question make you feel convicted in any way? If it does, this is where heart work begins for you. I want to share with you where heart work began for me. I accept my mother and how she chooses to live outside of my family unit. I accept the lifestyle that she has chosen for herself as she sees best fit for her. I support her. I want her to be happy and fulfilled, even though that does not include me. Does that hurt? Absolutely. Shame, abandonment, these are all experiences that I have lived, which have led me to doubt whether or not I was good enough, or led me to try to find attention in all the wrong places, or had me impose all of these strict controls on my relationships. At the age of 26, my heart was still 12 and cold and hardened because I couldn't receive the love that I wanted. I wanted everyone to give me what my mom hadn't given me in all those years. And that was simply to be accepted, to be loved. But it wasn't until I accepted her. It wasn't until I accepted her image of herself. It wasn't until I accepted all of her that I began to release those strongholds in my heart that was occupied by fear, resentment, and anger. To love her is to accept her, as she sees herself without regard of what I want out of the deal. No more petitioning for love unrequited. No more shrinking to someone else's idea of who I should be. No more trying to convince the world that I am good enough. Acceptance. It somehow mutes all of those external voices that proclaim what you are not and opens you up to everything that you are. This pandemic has caused us to face some of the things that we commonly run from. Our health, care for our neighbor, loneliness, and even death. And while those are all monstrous, the biggest monster of them all was that for the first time in a long time, we had to face ourselves. Many of us are familiar with being still, finding calm, or meditation, but during the quarantine, we had to sit with our thoughts. Let me ask you, during the pandemic, did you take the time to redesign your home spaces to match your creativity or your comforts? Did you take on any new challenges that may have previously scared you? Did you take the time to notice the worlds within our world that maybe we were too busy to notice when things were normal? I hope that you use some time during this pandemic to really heighten your awareness and get to know yourself just a bit more. While dodging COVID, I grew an affinity for growing other living things, not only as a professional, but also in my dad's backyard garden. I asked my dad one day, I said, "Dad, can we grow sunflowers so that we can make our own sunflower seeds?" My dad said something that completely caught me off guard. It was really, really deep. My dad replied, he said, "Son, in order to enjoy the beauty of sunflower seeds, you have to be willing to let the sunflower grow past the beauty we all know." I was like, whoa, Dad, where did that come from? Wow, it was so deep. Nature always has a way of saying these things that are super deep. Like that phrase, the faith of a mustard seed. I never knew what that phrase really meant until I heard it in a completely different way. Miles Monroe once said, "God hid everything that a thing is supposed to become in itself." So that means that this mustard seed, so small and seemingly insignificant, contains all the information and processes and procedures in itself, that it needs to become a full-blown plant in itself. That small mustard seed already knows what it will become and will pursue its highest level of spiritual attainment. You are just like that mustard seed. You have been encoded with everything that you need to reach your highest self. You also grew an awareness to witness the entire process and also reach for your highest spiritual attainment. This part of Heartwork is about following your senses towards your interests, your desires, and your curiosities. You don't have to know where you're going to move towards what you will become. Following your senses only requires that you accept things as they are while knowing that the answers to the question that you have exist within you. An Indian mystic named Sir Guru said it like this. He said, life is not about becoming superhuman. It's about realizing that being human is super. You are super, and no one needs to know that or celebrate that but you. You have to be bold enough to do the hard work necessary to become your idea of your greatest self. Accept the world as it is, and then use this newly freed space to explore all of you. Hard work starts off as that hard work that begins the moment you realize that the world doesn't revolve around you. First, you must learn to accept the world as it exists within, and then the world that just so happens to surround you. No matter who you thought was supposed to love you, you are the generator that powers your spirit higher. Bring all of you into your awareness so that you can follow your heart's desires. Whether that's engineering the next supercar or becoming the world's top nurse or marching in storms to stamp your own impression, know that you don't need permission to show up as you using your own desired method of self-expression. You are the master of your piece, and your masterpiece should be your most masterful artwork. I welcome you to this place and extend to you the grace to begin your own heartwork. Thank you.